When they seized my life savings, every penny that I've worked for, every honest dollar that I earned over the last 25, 30 years, it made me feel like I was the dirt on the ground.
Kermit Warren is a hardworking grandfather from New Orleans' lower Ninth Ward. He's had lots of jobs, and for extra money, he also collects and sells scrap metal.
I worked at the Port of New Orleans as a longshoreman. I worked as a contractor for the Corps of Engineers. I worked at world-famous Central Grocery, and now I'm currently working at the Roosevelt Hotel as the Shine Man.
But now, the government is using civil forfeiture to try to take nearly $30,000 from Kermit without ever charging him with a crime. Kermit, like many of his neighbors, lost much in Hurricane Katrina.
After Hurricane Katrina, I lost everything in my home. My home was destroyed, all pictures, photos.
When COVID-19 hit, Kermit and his son Leo were laid off. Kermit decided to use his savings to turn his part-time metal scrapping job into a full-time business with Leo. To do that, he needed a bigger truck, and he thought he found one in Ohio.
Would you take a cash offer? He said, sure. I said, I'll offer you $30,000 cash. He said, sure. I told him I'll be on the next plane coming to Ohio.
Kermit and Leo flew to Ohio, planning to drive the truck back to New Orleans. But when they arrived, they saw the truck was too big for their needs. So they bought one-way tickets home.
The TSA lady asked me what was in the bag. I notified and told her that I had close to $30,000 cash money. Her supervisor told her that it was okay for me to travel with that amount of cash money. I went and sat down to wait for my plane to come. 3 DEA agents came to me and asked me, could they speak with me? So he didn't want to hear the story about me showing him the truck. He didn't want me to call the guy who I was buying the truck from. He said, we're going to confiscate your money. He said, we think y'all are up here doing something illegal. I said, man, you're just robbing me for my money.
Civil forfeiture turns the presumption of innocence on its head. DEA doesn't have any evidence to charge Kermit with a crime, but they don't need to in order to keep his money forever. Unfortunately, civil forfeiture disproportionately affects racial minorities and the poor.
Since they seized my money, it's been very difficult for me to provide for my family and my children.
My money got seized by the police. They seized $39,500.
Meet Jerry. He lives just outside Charlotte, North Carolina.
I'm a truck driver, owner of Triple J Logistics.
Jerry manages 2 trucks and 2 drivers. He used the trucking industry to turn his life around after leaving prison a decade ago.
I got my commercial driver's license in 2012 when I got out of prison. I started my company in 2015.
With his business going well, Jerry looked into expanding his fleet.
I was looking to add on a 3rd truck to increase my revenue of my company, but that didn't happen.
That didn't happen because he did something completely legal. Fly domestically with cash.
I was going to buy a truck for my business from an auction in Phoenix. They had the brand that I like. I like that ISX motor, I love it. It was one of them reactions where I needed to go, that ISX motor, I love it. It was one of them reactions where I needed to go get this thing.
When he stepped off the plane in Phoenix, Arizona to pick up his luggage, Jerry was confronted by law enforcement.
And he pulled out his badge and he said, may I see your ID? I passed him my ID. He asked me, was I carrying any drugs? I told him no. He asked me, was I carrying any large sums of money? I said yes.
Jerry was taken to a back office where he was interrogated for an hour.
I never thought anything was wrong. I just thought he wanted to take a look at the money and verify where I had got this income, and he was going to let me go with my money.
Police refused to believe that the money was Jerry's, but the only evidence they had was his old criminal convictions.
About an hour later, he came out with a piece of paper and laid it on the desk. He said, if you don't sign this paper, then you're going to be arrested. And I didn't know arrested and I didn't know arrested for what, so eventually I signed the paper, and he told me I was free to go.
Officers took all the money Jerry was carrying, and now the government is working to keep it through civil forfeiture.
I was carrying $39,500. I got the money from saving, a loan from my family members, and I paid myself through my business.
Jerry's business has been hurting because he doesn't have a third truck or the money he was saving.
Ever since they took my money, we're just basically making ends meet right now.
To get his money back, Jerry had to first prove to Arizona that the money belonged to him.
My attorney presented tons of evidence. I didn't feel like we was gonna lose that. I thought we did more than enough for them to give my money back.
Jerry lost when the Arizona judge ruled that he wasn't the owner of the money because Jerry could not prove that the cash wasn't connected to an.
He came to me one day and he said, "Babe, I want to own my own trucking business." I said, "Okay, that's cool. What do you need me to do?" He said, "Can you help me get this truck?" I said, "Okay." So I started working overtime.
After finding a few potential trucks in Houston, Emil borrowed $13,000 from his niece and $6,500 from Jordan. He brought over $40,000 on his trip.
I made it almost into Houston, and they got pulled over by the cops. Why? What's wrong? His initial answer was I was following too close behind a box truck. He asked me to have drugs and cash. I told him, "No, sir, I don't do drugs. I have no drugs." But he was like, "Do you have any cash or maybe a large sum of cash with you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have cash." The normal questions and stuff like that, it wasn't there. He was just focused on one thing, and that one thing was cash. After so long, when he got what he wanted, he let me go.
The officers seized $41,680 from Emil. He was not arrested for, charged with, or convicted of any crime.
Calling Jordan, telling her about what happened, I was at a loss for words. I really, I choked up,
I worked hard for that money. There are days that I didn't even want to go to work because I'm tired. And to just have it taken with no explanation, it's terrible. How do you start over?
All of my drive, all of my motivation, everything was gone. All I can think about was everything we saved.